So, a third weakness of Weber's argument is the way in which she chooses the monolithic male homosexual as her main unit of analysis. Weber mobilizes Kozowski's definition of queer, which is the refusal or inability to signify monolithically in relation to sex, gender, and sexuality. But then she chooses as her main subject of study the male homosexual, which she defines sometimes as explicitly male and sometimes implicitly by using he, him pronouns. This is illustrated by various moves within the book. For example, she starts her chapter on queer curiosity by asking, what is homosexuality and who is the homosexual? And on the same note, asking states, the queer question is, how do you treat your homosexuals? So this assumes that there is not much more to queerness than male homosexuality, so much so that she basically uses the two terms interchangeably. And of course, homosexuality is a very important component of queer identities, but ignorance of other sexual and romantic orientations as well as gender identities is nonetheless problematic because it assumes that homosexuality can speak on behalf of all other queer identities. And of course, they oftentimes face similar difficulties, but also many different issues. So, an analysis of other types of queerness would have enriched Weber's argument and maybe even yielded different results. Two examples I could think of are, for example, non-binary people who refuse to signify monolithically in terms of gender and refuse to be put in the boxes of male and female, and not just as a performance in the way Conchita Wurst does it, but in their everyday lives. Or also many asexual and aromantic people who refuse to enter a partnership and thereby defy heteronormativity as well as homonormativity. Now, Weber does mention some trans identities sometimes, but the issues that she addresses, for example, the lack of procreation or the breaking of standards within the nuclear family, are all issues that either apply exclusively to homosexuality or to homosexuality and other queer identities, but never quite exclusively to non-homosexual queer identities. So in conclusion, she claims to defy monolithic and simplified categorizations, but then as her main unit of analysis, she chooses the male homosexual, which is in itself a monolithic and simplified category. In fact, the only chapter in which she truly presents a queer analysis in the way she herself defines queer is in chapter 6, which is the chapter on Conchita Wurst. So making this book truly queer would have been not just about including other queer identities, but also about acknowledging how these identities fluctuate, intermingle, and refuse to be categorized in neat boxes. In fact, how they refuse to signify monolithically, as Weber would put it.